And so I ask you, my good friends and colleagues, to support this important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Balzer. Questions from the committee? Chairwoman Benson. Seeing none, thank you very much, Representative. Representative Paul McMurtry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. I wanted to begin by, first of all, thanking you for taking me out of turn, and also want to congratulate each of you on your new appointments, you, Senator, in your new role in the Senate, and you, Madam Chair, in your new appointment less than 24 hours later as chair of this committee. I'm comforted today knowing that under your leadership and your capable hands, that we will be able to move forward on this legislation. And I want to wish both of you continued success, not only today, but throughout the legislative session. I, more than anyone here today, am surprised by the controversy that this bill has created. And its intent has always been the protection of our citizens from discrimination, and by no means the limitation of one's constitutional rights. As you know, I, along with 57 of our colleagues in the House and Senate, filed this legislation to ensure that the Commonwealth supports its own strong anti-discrimination policies. And it does not do business with those who seek to undermine our shared values. Similar legislation has been adopted in 14 states and is being considered in several others. And Massachusetts can continue to be a leader by enacting this legislation and ensuring that all citizens are treated to a fair and equal opportunity. My intention of filing this bill is and has been that the Commonwealth should not support businesses that make its decisions based on who someone is. That has been the overriding spirit of our Commonwealth since its founding, and nothing in this legislation denies or restricts an individual's rights to boycott a foreign government or to participate in a political or social movement. House 1685 requires anyone seeking to do business in the Commonwealth to affirm that they are in compliance with the state's anti-discrimination laws. In other words, that they do not refuse to employ, serve, or rent to people based on the innumerable characteristics, including nationality. This bill would codify the previous administration's executive order, ensuring that those who seek to do business with the Commonwealth are not in violation of the state's anti-discrimination laws. We have come a long way here in Massachusetts, and we remain committed that all people should have the opportunity to participate fully in our society, regardless of color, creed, or any other characteristics that would separate each of us. While Governor Patrick's original executive order has been effective, we have all seen firsthand how easily they can be rescinded, altered, or replaced, depending on the administration. This will not be the last time that we come together for a hearing on a bill with passionate supporters and passionate opponents on each side. It's our responsibility to make sure that all parties have an opportunity to speak their mind, share their opinions, and make their cases. It is my hope that this legislation will be the impetus for a conversation that will satisfy both sides of the issue and protect our citizens while still enjoying the full freedom of our constitutional rights. I'm proud to support this legislation and to continue, as always, to advocate on behalf of our discriminated populations. After 10 years in the legislature, I trust in the process, I trust in our democracy, and today I trust in each of you to make the Commonwealth a better place for all to live, to work, and to do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McMurtry. Questions from the committee? Chairwoman Benson. Representative Provost.
Thank you, Representative McMurtry. Could you please give us some examples of the kind of discrimination that state contractors are engaging in?
This actually, Representative, thank you for your question, but I'm not sure I can have specific examples at this point. But what this will, if the question is, why do we need the legislation if we're already not engaging in discriminatory practices? If we're not, then why not have the legislation? So The legislation will just reinforce the Commonwealth's beliefs, our character, our spirit, and I know that I can't give you specific examples, but I know there's plenty of people here that are testifying that can give you specific examples.
Any other questions from the committee? Representative, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Steve Howard.
Good morning. Echoing my colleagues, congratulations to you, Madam Chairwoman. And I want to thank you and the committee for hearing me out of order this morning for this important bill. I urge the committee to support H1685, an act prohibiting discrimination in state contracts, a bipartisan piece of legislation with over 40 co-sponsors from the House of Representatives, carefully designed to ensure that the state contracts are not used to support businesses who actively discriminate against people based on their immutable characteristics. My decision to co-sponsor this bill, along with Representative McMurtry and many other colleagues, was motivated by the desire to address the intimidation and targeting of innocent Israeli and Jews perpetrated by a small vocal minority. While this compromise does not address the root of the discrimination, it does send a strong and clear message that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will not be party to those who refuse to do business with Israeli and Israeli-owned businesses solely based on their natural origin. It is a privilege to be in front of you today to stand up against hate while also extending those same protections to other groups who have been historically targeted. Just last week, I stood with the governor, the mayor of Boston, members of the legislature, rabbis, pastors, and imams, and countless other civic leaders to decry the shattering of the Holocaust Memorial in Boston and to celebrate its rededication. The message spoke that day echoes in large part the message that this bill sends. The collective punishment flies in the face of justice, that the singling out and targeting of people based on who they are is dangerous and irresponsible. Throughout the lead to this hearing, I myself have been personally harassed. I have a copy of a postcard which I enlarged that was sent to my house as a form of intimidation. As you can see, it is very anti-Semitic, and it was sent by organization, the BDS organization. May I?
Yes. Please continue, Representative.
Now, as you can see in that card, every other country is named by name. Israel, they use the Jewish star, which is sort of ironic because that is the symbol for Jews, not only Israel. I also received anti-Semitic emails sent to me at my State House address, but this we cannot condone. Sending and trying to intimidate a legislator based on the fact that they filed a bill is unacceptable, period. And I'm sure any of you who have ever filed a bill, and if you received anything that was a personal attack on you and your family, would not accept it. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. But let me be clear, this bill is not about Israel or about stopping BDS. This bill is about protecting innocent Israelis and all other people who are held accountable for things that they cannot control, whether it be their native government, the color of their skin, or their religion. My intent on co-sponsoring this bill was not to punish people for expressing their opinion, no matter how vile or offensive it is to me. My intent was to make sure that the Commonwealth does not stand idly when innocent people are targeted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Howard. Questions or comments from the committee? Chairwoman Benson.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And I'm very happy to be here today. This is quite a welcome, so thank you all for coming to my welcome party. But I do actually have a question, having listened to some of the previous testimony to you, and obviously this terrible example of an attack that was sent to your home. But I have to ask the question. We're talking about discrimination, but we're not talking about boycotts, and yet who is making that decision, what is discriminatory versus what is a political boycott? Because when you have nations that are self-identified and globally identified with a particular religion, that would be a very murky, I think, issue and hard to decide, because we do not have laws in Massachusetts that would define this. And so, I find this to be a gray area in the legislation and has not really been addressed in any of the testimony that I've heard so far. Is this something that you've considered?
Well, I think, let me rephrase that. I believe that there have been instances where the tactics have been intimidation, and while in my particular case, it is addressed as to Israelis and Israeli business people. What the government does and what the people do are one thing and not the other. I've read in many newspapers of Israeli artists being denied access to different festivals because of this boycott. And I would not like to see anything like that happen in the Commonwealth just because of their ethnicity.
So if I may follow up.
Please, Madam Chair, by all means.
So then to further clarify, this would address only happenings in the Commonwealth, except what we're talking about is procurement laws with businesses. So is it then to assume that any business that would choose not to do business with Israel is then therefore considered discriminatory?
I think, it's sometimes hard to separate the country from the business and the individual. But if a business is an Israeli business, it's one thing. If it's the Israeli government, it's a whole different issue.
So I think you've illuminated the crux of my issue, is that this is unclear. And the U.S. has sanctions against other countries already. And so would that be considered discriminatory or not if it's a majority Muslim country, say Iran or someplace? So it becomes a little bit hard to define, perhaps, from a legal perspective when you're talking specifically about procurement. Now, this is very different than a private fair that have gotten a permit, say, on a local level from a town or something.
Right.
We're talking about the state working with businesses in a transactional way.
Well, I think you're going to be hearing from Israeli-owned businesses who are U.S. citizens, but Israeli background, and because they are Israeli background, they have been discriminated against from doing business solely because of their ethnicity. And I think what this bill does is it not only addresses that, but it would address other issues based on race, creed, color. We heard earlier from the senator about an instance with a cake and a company not wanting to make the cake. Now, that's their option. Whether you agree with it or not, that's their option, as it is a private business. But if that's the